Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and do my intro, y'all. Um, Welcome to another study, you guys. Appreciate you for whoever is joining in the live Zoom today, and whoever is watching later. Much appreciated. All praises to the Most High Yah for allowing me to be able to do another study. Before I just started recording, I was asking my brothers and sisters to definitely pray for me, pray for my family, pray for covering, just simple covering. These studies that I do, all praises to the Most High Yah that He's blessing me to be able to do so. But I definitely would be sugarcoating it if I didn't tell y'all. It comes with spiritual warfare, definitely. And my family and I, we know this, and it doesn't get easier, but at the same time, there's always blessings that come with it. Getting through it, but I, I I I definitely appreciate any prayers that come our way, and I told my brothers and sisters as well. I have not had sleep today, and I am pushing through. So if you are going through tough times or whatever you're doing, and you pushing through, and you just letting y'all just just carry you, I am with you. All praises to the Most High Yah for just uh, his 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 endurance that He puts in us. Today is a very very powerful study, in my opinion, but I know in my ruach, that's what it feels like. So if I do get passionate today, I hope that it fires you up. And it's a very important study, very important for you to have this understanding. And it's always in a general foundational way. There's other people who could, do a study like this and maybe have different words, and different ways to obviously present it based off of the Ruach. The Ruach does different things within us. And, all praises to that as well. But for me, the way he has me do a lot of these studies, he has me do mainly the foundations. And it's not always going to be super esoteric, mysterious stuff, right? But again, even if it may seem like some of these are mysteries, quote unquote, Yah is revealing these mysteries. He's been giving us the wisdom and the understanding for us to understand these things that He wants us to understand. So again, uh, all of these things are foundations, and it's a true blessing to be able to have this wisdom today. And I ask Yah in my prayer soon that He also gives us the power in the rock to be able to carry out whatever actions He needs us to carry out consistently. But without further ado, I go ahead and pray in so we can set the atmosphere and the environment and set my mind up. Dear Abba Yah, we just thank you for another study, another moment in time where I could fellowship with my brothers and sisters, whether or not there was anyone that was coming on today, or whether there was one or however many, Abba Yah. I just thank you just for having this opportunity to be able to do so, be able to walk in my ordained path, Abba Yah. Um, and just be able to be a servant unto you and a servant unto my brothers and my sisters, to be able to give to them. And I'll be ultimately the foundations of me even doing this for my children, for my wife, for them to have things to go off of, for them to have studies to be able to peer into and to study and things of that nature, as well. Abiyah. For this is um, my mark, I guess, my legacy, I would say, quote unquote, that I leave with my children. Ultimately, to have them walk in you. Ultimately, that's what the best thing I can give them, Abiyah, is to be able to point them in the right direction for them to walk strongly in you, and as well as my wife. And I just thank you for that, Abiyah. And I ask that anyone else, that you're blessing anyone else who's able to walk, to receive any of these studies and understanding and wisdom in these studies, that they meet, that they're always going towards you, never towards me specifically, Abiyah, and never praising me, Abiyah, but praising you always, and always seeking more understanding in you, Abiyah. We acknowledge your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, and we ask that you continue to allow Yahushua HaMashiach to be able to impart into us this wisdom and knowledge and understanding that we need in order to make it to that seventh day when he returns, and in order for us to continue to prepare for that eighth day when we are with you, Father. And we ask that you bless this study today. Give me the energy I need today to be able to deliver this word. And I ask that you allow us all to enjoy it and it be insightful. And we just love you. And we just ask that you also remove any blocks in our mind and our hearts today in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. And we ask that you just set the atmosphere on my end and on all my brothers and my sisters' ends, whether they're or not they're watching the live today or in their own time. And we just give you all the praise, glory, and honor in the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, Abiyah. We pray. Yamein, y'all. Yamein. Yamein. So I do not have my laptop open right now, and it's okay. I have plenty to share with y'all. This is the Shepherd of Hermas study. Okay, so how I told you guys in the first study of Shepherd Hermas, the series, I told you guys that I would be jumping from the visions portion because there's three portions. So it's the visions portion, it's the commandment portion, and it's the commandments portion, and then it's the similitudes portion, or they call it parables. So in order for me to be able to cover enough over time, and so that way it didn't get too for it to just be active enough for us to be able to have to walk kind of circumspectly as the word says, for us to be able to circle all around through Shepherd of Hermas. uh, I felt the need to be able to go like vision one. Next time I do Shepherd of Hermas is going to be commandment one, and then probably number two. And then obviously we're doing Similitude one. And I wanted to do number two today, but you guys will see why I'm only able to do one today. And then that way, whatever we learn today, we'll be able to pick up on Similitude number two whenever that comes out. And it's just a nice flow. So yeah, y'all. So if you don't really know anything about Shepherd of Hermas, I would research it, obviously. I did bring it up in the first study, and I presented some pretty good stuff about it. This book was read back in the day, so if you have any very hardcore Christian friends, quote unquote, they probably will not know anything about this book at all. But I have a study series, or just maybe one study that's specifically for Christians, quote unquote, and just being able to present different things that I would say their church fathers basically knew and basically had information about, connected to the path of righteousness that we're supposed to be following, that is not in the regular Protestant canon. The train of thought is not in how it's not fully how they placed it in the quote unquote New Testament, when it's supposed to be called a renewed covenant. It's little things like this. Like this book is very powerful. There's some things in it that just have to be divided very well, and I take pride and honor unto the Most High Yah, to be able to break down a lot of these apocrypha books, just to be able to give you a general foundational study to go back on, and to at least present it to you, so that way you can shed some type of um, not necessarily protective covering, because you obviously want to make sure Yah is leading you to be able to read these books, and you want to make sure He's always there with you. So you always invite Him in His Ruach, with you in your reading. But specifically, at least from on my end, I try to make sure I could help you guys actually, divide certain things that may be in there that's confusing, or kind of just present certain things in there that can also show you that it's very much connected, throughout Scripture. So that's what I love doing, especially with these apocryphal books. But again, you always want to make sure you have your foundations right? You should be able to learn more things in Genesis and Jubilees. I want to show you guys a few things in Jasher, not necessarily show you guys the scriptures in Jasher, but I'm going to give you guys a warning about certain things in Jasher that you guys definitely have to be careful about. Jasher is a great book, but there's some things in there they snuck in there. It's not just Jasher, but specifically why I'm saying that for the studies, this one and with Enoch, you guys are going to hear that often. And it's very important foundational things that you guys have to be able to realize that is inserted in there for a specific reason, and you guys have to just be careful. Okay, but again, just some foundational things that we're going to go over. Hermas is a very great trilogy of books that I absolutely love. This probably my top read, to be honest. Um, but make sure you guys do your own study, and make sure you guys do your own research, and make sure you guys continue to allow the Ruach to feed you first and foremost. All right. So we will be reading Similitude number 1 here. I will share the PDF version on this screen. I know on YouTube it doesn't always show you the bigger portion of the text. I tried to enlarge the text this time, and you just have to go landscape mode on YouTube if you don't really see it well, portrait. But again, I'm just downloading the video that Zoom allows me to download, and then I just put it on the YouTube. So, I just still have to work with it. I know some people have messaged me like the font is small, but you do have to try to put it on landscape mode if you can. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into this. All right. Let me see here. Of course, I got my slides. All right, so heart set, spirit set, and mindset as usual. Obviously, you guys, I am, I share a lot of these studies for you guys to learn and for you guys to divide on your own, obviously, and with your families or friends that you trust to study. Right now, with all of these studies that I have, is literally tailor made for those who are truly trying to walk in spirit and in truth. If you go trace back a lot of the other studies that I have, and you guys do not have to do so, but just speaking personally, the studies that I have been able to do, they're all like designed. Yah has designed it in a way where it's like a leveling up process. And so where the studies are now, we are like locked into really growing in the Ruach and really receiving that power that He wants us to receive. He has put in my spirit that it's a lot of dormant things in people's spirit that is just not, it's just dormant right now. And by Yah's will and His grace and His mercy, He will unlock those different portions in your Ruach. Through me just being able to share with you different things that you will be able to open up with Him. He's opening up things in your life and opening up things in your Ruach for you to be able to see different, destroy different strongholds, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not on any type of prosperity teacher type stuff when they be like, in 3 whole days, you are going to experience uh, a magnificent change in your finances and all that stuff. I am not saying none of that, y'all. I don't know the timing. I do not know how He's going to do it, but I do know it in my spirit. Thank Yah that that's what he put in my spirit. I don't know if it's for everybody. I don't know specifically, but I do know that I can control on my end doing what he's asking me to do, and with the utmost respect and excitement and prayers for you guys and for um, you know for just anticipation for you guys. I carry that with me in these studies. So, and I follow a lot of you guys' journeys. I talk to you guys, most of you, and I look forward to seeing whatever he has for you and whatever has developed in your own life. So with this study, obviously, in any study, your heart should be set on how do I get closer to Yah? Knowledge in the Hebraic sense is getting closer, more intimate with Yah. Okay, more intimate. It's not just the worldly knowledge where you're gaining some information just to take a test and they say, okay, did you remember that information? No, this is true, like getting closer to Yah. So that way you understand his word rather than just saying, oh, yeah, I obey his commands. What do you really understand about it? Why do you guard the Shabbat? Why do you do different things? Why do you do these things? Right? Where's your testimony at with this word? Right? So it's little different things that you should be growing in intimacy with Yah. And that's how I go about the word, especially on my end as well. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a process, right? So that's where your heart should be first and foremost, and your spirit should be aligned with your heart, and your mind, even if it's in another place sometimes, or if you feel, some type of way about something before you got into this study or whatever the case is, still you can still align your mind with your spirit and where your heart is. And because you truly love Yah, you truly fear him, and you truly are trying to gain wisdom and understanding. And you're not looking at me as a person, yes, you could be looking at me as a wise person, but at the end of the day, your so focused is making sure that you're trying to gain something that gets you closer to Yah, and that you're not just leaving off on this study alone. You are going to go research more. You're going to read more. You're going to read more deeply. You're going to pray different. You're going to look at things in a more positive way, the way He wants us to look at it, more discerning way, more prudence, right? Everything that's in the Word that He wants us to do, that's what you should be gaining out of this. And if you're not, you should not be listening to me at all. You should be, go find someone else, I would say. And I'm not saying I'm the end all preacher, teacher, whatever, however people label people these days. But I know who I am. I know what y'all wants me to do, and I know it's for a specific time, right? So like I said, I'm always joyous to do this, and I really, 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 really always try to make sure you guys know like what this is, because there's some wild stuff happening with people who are in leadership, quote unquote, and they are not truly understanding how dire of a duty this is. Like leading sheep astray is really the top thing that I'm seeing right now, and it's unfortunate because it's like the blind leading the blind. So I just try to do my diligence standing in the middle to try to help as many people as I can. And it's up to Yah who hears and who sees, and make sure you guys continue to make your election sure with fear and trembling. All right. So that is the heart set, spirit set, and mindset. Let's move on. In the chat, y'all can obviously message in the chat. Don't be afraid. All right, so what is a similitude? All right, a similitude is a similarity, essentially, a comparison, a shadow, etc. It's like you are representing something. Being able to say this, like whatever parable, let's just say, is being presented, or a story, or some deep connections. You can always find other connections with that parable, with that similitude. And that's one of the most generic understandings of similitude. And again, it can just be changed up or replaced with the word parables. And with Shepherd of Hermas, this is probably, I would say it's the top book that I have not seen anywhere else have as much detail in these similitudes and these parables. Like out of any book I've ever read, this is literally like in Hermas. These are the most detailed. Now you guys have no idea if you have not read this. If you if you go read similitude, like let's just say like five um or seven, I would say it's like 100. It's like sometimes it's 83 verses, sometimes it's like 100 verses. It's a lot, but you guys will not believe your eyes. I'm telling you, if you guys read these similitudes, it will change your life, like guaranteed. There's some of the stuff in here that has to be divided, even obviously divided well. Um, because again, some people may read something and just throw the whole thing out because they don't really understand it, or it needs dividing. But I love this book with all my heart, and I really it changed my life a lot, a whole lot, because of the things that's in it that you can literally connect with so much that you've already read. Obviously, we know there's parables in the renewed covenant scriptures, in the Besorah and the Gospels. You have in Enoch, one of the other most detailed, probably I would say number two on my list, that I believe that is the most detailed similitudes or parables. It's definitely in Enoch when he's, some people call it the animal apocalypse, but you're reading essentially about the Yahuwah of the sheep, right? And it's like, I think it's maybe like 9 chapters, if I'm not mistaken, 8 to 10 chapters. So very, very detailed, and you really do have to do some research and digging to really understand more of those of that parable. Or I would say, essentially, it was a vision, but sometimes they call it parables. And but then sometimes they also label in Enoch the parables chapters. I think it's like 30 something through like 70. They'll label that as parables, and then whatever he saw with the animals as visions. So it just really, sometimes it just depends, but I think more so the latter, what I just said, is really how they label Enoch. But the similitudes portion, the parables, for at least Shepherd of Hermas, you're getting visions that he's basically having a vision, or he's basically speaking to these angels or this angel, and you're getting understanding of what he's seeing and what he's getting understanding about at the same time. So it's just awesome. Like, it's just different if you were just left with just what he sees and then you have no understanding. But Hermas, he asked so many questions. Even one time, a few times, the angel was like, "Dude, are you still asking me this again? Like, do you not understand?" But it's not in the meaning way. It's like in a like, dude, you really ask a lot of questions type thing. But of course, the angels, they are our brethren. They are our fellow servants, as it says in the scriptures. So, I kind of see that as it's playful in a sense. But again, they're making sure that they do their job, so that way, they weren't just focused on Hermas and his household, helping him get his household saved. They are also focused on whoever else would be reading whatever he was going to translate and put on paper, and be able for us to read it, especially in our generation, the righteous generation that Enoch speaks of in chapter 1. We're different, right? And some of you guys know there's scriptures where it says not all people are going to search out wisdom in other books, in other books, right? So it's not easy to tell people there are other books outside of the Protestant canon. It's not easy, even though it's written in history right there. It's just not easy because a lot of people just don't want wisdom. But then also, just being honest, some people are led astray. by these other books because they're not dividing it well and they have the spirit of error heavy on them. And there's a lot that goes into that. So sometimes it's better for someone not to read apocrypha books or information in those books if they do not have a solid foundation, and then if their heart is in a wrong place, their mind is in a wrong place. So if you're ever giving advice to anyone about the books and things like that, make sure you give, it's not necessarily a disclaimer, but it is, right? Because you're just giving them wise counsel, telling them what to look out for, how to be careful, how to you're just helping them set up themselves in a right way, right? In a righteous way. Um, so yeah, so every scripture and topical reading the screen can be connected to various similar topics plus scriptures in the word. So again, like I mentioned, first Enoch, you have Daniel, you got John, Ezekiel, Ezra, Baruch, essentially every prophet, essentially. But not all are massive like this. Okay. So similitude one isn't a massive, it's not a massive similitude at all, but it's powerful. Okay. It's very, 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 very powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and share the PDF on the screen, but I also am going to read from my translation that I have a copy of on my end, because there's certain wording in it that I want to make sure I share, so that way you guys can see a little bit of a difference. All right. So give me 1 second here. Okay. I gotta scroll all the way through. It's gonna be fire once we get to those commandments. It's very interesting. All right. Okay. So again, I'm gonna read from the screen here, and then I'm going to read, and I have some. Of course, you guys know I got my slides as well. Okay. So more than likely, I'm just going to read. Let me see here. I'm going to read verse 1 through 3. Okay. And actually 1 through 4. 1 through 4. All right. So the parables or the similitude, a parable of two cities. It says, he spoke to me. You know, he said, that you who are servants of Yah are living in a foreign country, for your city is far from this city. Okay. In my other translation, it says, you who are the servants of Yah dwell in a strange land, for your city is far away from this one. Okay. Going back to the screen here. If therefore you know, he said, your city in which you are destined to live, why do you prepare fields and expensive possessions and buildings and useless rooms here? Okay. In my other translation, it says, if then, he continues, you know your city in which you are to dwell, why do you here provide lands and make expensive preparations and accumulate dwellings in useless buildings? Okay. Um, verse 2 on the screen. If you are preparing these things for this city, you obviously are not planning to return to your own city. Foolish and double-minded and miserable person, do you not realize that all these things are foreign to you and under someone else's authority? For the Lord of this city will say, I do not want you to live in my city. Instead, leave this city, because you do not conform to my laws. So, you who have fields and dwellings and many other possessions, what will you do with your field and your house and all the other things you have prepared for yourself when you are expelled by him? For the Lord of this country has every right to say to you, either conform to my laws or get out of my country. Whew. All right, all right, all right. I know some of y'all are like, oh, oh man, oh man. There's just a lot of fire in that one already, right? And it's something like you already can tell just by you reading that it's just different because you don't really read something like that, in a lot of scripture, just like written like that. And it's so different, but you have so many things you can connect to it. So how I wanted to go about this, I wanted to give at least some precepts, to different portions of what we're seeing in the scripture. All right. So dwelling in a strange land. So obviously, some people have like their beliefs that we are, especially, those who are in America are in the promised land. So again, I can respect those thoughts. But I'm going to just go off of just regular simple format of dwelling in a strange land. And this is mainly because of the fact that we know there's prophecy that says that Yah is going to gather his sheep at a certain portion of time, within Jacob's trouble, Yasharel's trouble, a portion of it, like towards the end, that he's going to grab some people and bring them into a portion of land where they're going to experience certain things, like manna is going to come down. Um, and these two great beasts are going to be for food. These are things for you to obviously look up. So I can't explain every single portion of all of this in this specific study. But again, I try to make sure I throw some things out there for you to research and for you to be able to write down and, all your own notes. And a lot of you guys take some beautiful notes, and you guys will always go look back on different things. And I hopefully, I'm always trying to trigger you to keep studying, right? So different things like that, those are prophetic things that are going to happen. And that is Yah sending his angels to pull his people wherever we will be and take them to that specific area and land. And then obviously, there's going to be, I think most people know everything about New Jerusalem, I would say. But at least let me present different precepts that you should always have, and it's very simple precepts you should have when it comes to dwelling in a strange land. All right. So again, I don't have my laptop, but it's all right. We're gonna get after this in a natural way. Jeremiah 29, 4 through 7. So I'm gonna find Jeremiah 29, 7 right now in my word. And I'm gonna be reading from the Sefer, all right? From the Sefer. Would y'all like it if I change my what is it? Not, I don't know if it's dialect. If I feel like maybe, you know maybe maybe everyone would feel super smart if I had like a London English accent, like dwelling in a strange land, listening to the principles. No, I'm just kidding. I can't even do it fully. Um, hey, I know some of y'all are like, man, this dude is corny, but it's all right. It's all right. It's try to make y'all laugh just a little bit during the studies. You always got to be super, super, super just serious. All right, so Jeremiah 29, 4 through 7. All right. Thus says Yahuwah Sabaoth, the Elohai of Yasharel, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away. Okay? Whom I have caused to be carried away. Captives. Okay? Who have I caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babel. Build ye houses. Build you houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Take ye women and beget sons and daughters, and take women for your sons, and give your daughters to men, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminished. And seek the peace of the city, whither I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahuwah for it, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. And pray unto Yahuwah for it, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. So again, you guys have to divide this well, connected to other scriptures that you would like to do so. But I think this scripture is very hidden. I think it's very low key, that you don't really hear about this type of scripture, because it's always about, obviously we want to make sure we get out of Babel for sure. Coming out of Babylon for sure. But it's another thing to also know that Yah wanted us to, in the land of our captivities, that he also did want us to grow and learn. And if you really trace back to all the places where he took Yasharel captive, those same places have very similar concepts of the calendar, how they observed the luminaries. It wasn't super on point, but it's a very keen thing to really pay attention to. That Yah is very specific. He's so orderly with how he does things, and all these places where they were getting put in captivity, there were some similar things about how they go about, how Yasharel goes about how we go about our stuff, and how he designed for different things for us to go about it. So it's just, again, add that to you in your own studies, and make sure you are able to divide it well and understand this is a very foundational portion of it. And you notice that also in verse 10, he says, and I'm going to read this again later. He says, "For thus says Yahuwah, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babel, I will visit you and perform my good word towards you in causing you to return to this place." So if you ever read the Lamentations of Jeremiah, I think that's the or it's the epistle of Jeremiah, as it's said in the Sefer. I think it mentions in there that there were seven. I don't know if it's in here, but basically there were 70 generations, if I'm not mistaken. It was basically a lot of generations that happened within those 70 years, and it sounds crazy. It really does sound crazy. And if I could pull it up on my computer, I really would right now. But it says there was a certain amount of generations that passed within that 70 years. And you really have to really think about how fast those generations were going. Like seriously, like think about how fast generations were just like there and then gone, and next generation is there and then gone, and next generation is there. So obviously there was a lot of things that was going on, within the living situation, and conditions and things of that nature. But Yah still says what he says in this moment to be increased there, so that way they did not diminish. Essentially, if you think about those who are leading someone captive, of course they're not going to want them to progress and grow. So you guys saw how, reading in Exodus with Mizraim and the Pharaoh, even more so in the book of Jasher, how they deliberately was putting taskmasters, as they say, over Yasharal, in order for them to try to essentially like destroy them and wear them down, and not allow them, to basically reproduce and be great. But even in the midst of all of that, Yah still made them a great nation. He still made them great. He still, and that's where they were, the other people, the strangers, quote unquote, they were afraid. They're like, dude, like these people keep getting stronger. There's nothing else we can do. Like let's just keep, trying to destroy them with the labor, right? So again, you notice Yah already knows ahead of time, and that's why he's like, make sure you increase there and do not be diminished. Okay, so that's just a very simple portion. I'm going to read the rest of a little bit of chapter 29 later. I think it's going to come up where he's saying that, you know, I know the thoughts that I have towards you. I think that's going to come up a little bit later. Okay. So the other portion of the foundation that you should have is First Baruch. All right. So go to First Baruch if you can, chapter 2, verse 30. It says, "For I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves." They shall remember themselves. So that's another way that you also should be able to match and ask yourself, are we in the land of our captivity? Because 99.9% of us, if not 100% of us, we have been awakened. We have been shown who we are. Like we literally have been shown. We have been not just shown who we are. It's like it's not even in obviously in the regard of those who are whether you're blood Yasharel or grafted in, you have just been shown, you know, who you are supposed to be in him, and you're still trying to figure out, you know, your ordained path, let's say. You know, so that may be another portion of trying to figure out whether or not, you know, we are in our captivity. You just never, you have to be able to use different connections in scriptures, right? But essentially, he says that we will remember ourselves, and it says, verse 31, and shall know that I am Yahuwah Elohim, for I will give them a heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name. Think upon my name. So different saying God and Jesus and Lord and things like that, right? It's so different when you know Yahuwah Sabaoth, and you know, some people say Yahuwashi and things of that nature, fair enough, right? But the let's just say the YHWH, and you know, even the etymology, the deeper etymology within those words, like you got the Haya and then you got the Yasha, you know, those verbs, Hebrew etymology, you know, those things are within the names for us to be able to understand why he says certain things in this word, right? So we think upon his name, on the Father's name, in which the Son also has his name, right? So that's going to be divided even more when we get to commandment number 1, because there's some very important details that we should have as well. All foundations, right? Sister, welcome, sister, welcome. Verse 32, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name and return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers which sinned before Yahuwah, and I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, with an oath, Yahuwah Sabah, oath, with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov, and they shall be Adonai of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their Elohim, plural, and they shall be my people, and I will no longer drive my people, Yasharah, out of the land that I have given them. Notice he says, I will not drive them, my people, out of the land that he has given us. Okay. And then you got chapter 3 of First Baruch, you got verse 7, and it says, and for this cause you have put your fear in our hearts. So this is Baruch praying. You have put your fear in our hearts to the intent that we should call upon your name and praise you in our captivity. I'm sure you guys have some connections there. I think one of those connections is Joel, right? And other portions where he says that he will make what? He will make our heart what? He will make our hearts. I'm trying to see if somebody gonna type it there. I won't say it yet. I want to see if somebody gonna type it. I'll keep going. I'll wait. I mean, I won't wait, but I'll keep reading it just to see if somebody's gonna type that portion on there. Verse 7 again, it says, he will put. He said, "You have put your fear in our hearts to the intent that we should call upon your name and praise you in our captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquity of our forefathers that sinned before you." So my question was, sister, even if somebody was watching later, what did he say that he would do to our hearts? What did he say that he would do to our hearts specifically, prophetically? What did he say that he would do to our hearts? So in here you got he put his fear, fear into our hearts. That the intent would be that we should call upon his name and praise him in our captivity. So what else did he do to our hearts in order for us to even receive that? Yeah, write his Torah on our hearts. He would make our hearts flesh. He would open it. He would destroy the stone, the stiff-neckedness around our hearts, a heart of flesh to be able to receive these things, right? Just again, it's just foundational, right? Just for us to be able to remember those things and have some more connected to it, especially to the captivity that we would be in. Not just us in this moment, but also our ancestors, our people, right? And even if you are not blood Israel, these are the things that still has to be understood and known, because when you get to look at your ancestors and see what they did and when they were doing different things wrong and they weren't praising Yah and they were going against Yasharel back in the day, or they were leading people astray, and see how different you are and how different, like the reason why you're grafted in and the reason why it's such a massive blessing to be able to share the Basora, the good news, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like you have opportunities to do this, do so much research and so much reflection on different things and how all of this connects, because it does say in Enoch that Yahuwah Sabaoth will be a light to the nations. Okay, so it's different. I think it's good for us to be able to speak, in that way on both sides. For it to be a blessing all the way around. All right, and then the last portion that I put here for the principle, or for a foundation for dwelling in a strange land, you have Zechariah 10:9. Zechariah 10:9. All right. And it says, "And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again." And turn again. Okay. So it's very interesting when you read about Yahuwah of the sheep and you understand how he, who's the shepherd, the good shepherd, even spoken in Isaiah. You start understanding how all of this is working with the oaths, the covenants, all these different portions, and what's to come. It's truly amazing. All right. So dwelling in a strange land, all right, that was the foundation of that, because we just read in Similitude number 1 some different portions of why he's saying it, at least in verse 1. He says, "You know that you who are the servants of Yah dwell in a strange land." So again, you want to break the scriptures down even more when you are able to read on your own, and you want to be able to say, okay, do I understand why it says it's a strange land? All right, let's continue. All right, all right. Let me see here. Okay. So another portion of this is notice in verse 2 of Similitude 1 or parable number 1 of Shepherd and Hermas. It says, if then he continues, you know your city in which you are to dwell. Why do you here provide lands and expensive preparations and accumulate dwellings in useless buildings? So one thing about uh about about I'm sorry, about prosperity. I think that pretty sure you guys have come across that pretty well. Um, Especially, nowadays and even in the past with certain pastors and things like that, right? I think it's very important for us to really see something that is actually written there and is actually misconstrued and to be able to understand it a little bit more, right? So you are going to have the word prosperity and prosperous for sure written in other scriptures, right? But it's always tied to something. And what's interesting about the main verse that is usually used when people are saying that Yah will make you prosperous, you're going to find something really interesting. Okay. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 3. And we're going to read verse 1 through 2. It says, my son, forget not my Torah, but let your heart, and I'm reading from the Sefer, let your heart guard my commandments, or for length of days and long life, and peace shall they add to you. Now, in other translations, you can look it up right now if you would like. Other translations, instead of it saying long life and peace, it says long life and prosperity. But when you look up the Hebrew etymology of the word, and you can look it up, whether it's lexicon or things like that, where you can look it on even the most simple one, blueletterbible.com, you'll see that the right word that's actually in there is H7965 in the Strongs. It's shalom. Right? Shalom. Some people say shalom, shalom, it's shalom. Okay? So it says again that if you do not, I'm sorry, if you do not forget his Torah, his instructions, you let your heart guard his commandments. So the commandments are the charges that's given to you. So he gives you the instruction, Torah. He gives you the instructions for living. And then he says, now that you know the instructions and that you got well acquainted with it, not just in a knowledge type of way in the world where you got information just to recite it and say that you think you know it, or that these are rules that you're going to follow, but technically you're also giving yourself a choice to break the rules because you're not intimate with the knowledge yet. You're not intimate with the understanding yet. You don't truly know Yah fully just yet. But when you do get all those different things, you're able to what? Guard his instructions, guard his commandments, because now he gives you the charge. Make sure you guard this instruction that you truly understand and you hold dear to your life. And because you do that, you now have length of days, you have long life and peace that is adding to you. Everybody's life number is going to be different. Long life to Yah is going to be specific to the person. So it's not sitting there saying that everybody will live till 90 for sure, right? But it's just telling you that perhaps you were supposed to die 10 years ago if you didn't heed to whatever he showed you then. Perhaps. You never know. But thank Yah you're here right now, right? And thank Yah you can still look at this and say, I guard your commandments. Or you're learning how to guard his commandments. You're learning how to pull in a charge that he's giving you in order for you to walk strongly and keep what he's giving you and what he's taught you with your life, right? So again, you have other scriptures like this that's similar. Proverbs 28, verse 20, right? So within the reason why I'm going down the list with these scriptures specifically when it comes down to prosperity is that there's obviously teachings. There's teachings, there's, you can find easily. I'm sure you guys can list one right now who uses the scriptures and uses the word and has used the translation that says that he will make your way prosperous specifically, even with not they're not even looking it up on Blue Letter or whatever the case is, but they use the NLT translation or NIV translation and said, okay, prosper. So whatever you do, he wants to prosper it. And then they equate it with money. They say you can get rich, you can get wealthy, you can get, all these riches because Yah says that if you just follow his commands, like he's gonna make you rich. He's gonna do these different things. Sorry about that. So like, this is what they do, and they misconstrue the word. Okay, they misconstrue the word and they change it up in certain ways, and they'll argue you down to it, to the T, because most of these people have sold themselves to this idea, and now they actually live it. So by you saying anything against what they live and how they live, now it's like it's now they want to make sure they attack you or make sure they try to convince you enough what the scriptures are saying. But we literally, just by a simple blue letter Bible.com, .org, I don't know what it is, by looking up the scripture and seeing the etymology and clicking the button that shows you the Strong's number, it does not say specifically prosperity. It says shalom. Prosperity is within shalom in a certain regard, but it does not equate to money. It's not even the top thing about money. Okay, so that's why we're going to read these other scriptures to make sure we have this in, as the foundations, as foundations for us. And this is still going to obviously tie in with our similitude. Okay. So Proverbs 28:20, it says, a faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that makes haste to be rich shall not be innocent. So if you're rushing to be rich and you're doing things that get you in your mind fast to being rich, you guys know those ads that be coming up on YouTube. You see those videos also. They make fun of those videos where it says all you got to do is start an LLC. And so you start an LLC, like when you I'm copying one of these funny videos I've watched about it that was doing like a parody on the LLC. So it said, when you wake up in the morning, even before you brush your teeth, make sure you start an LLC. And then when you start an LLC, maybe you can brush your teeth, but don't even brush your teeth just yet. Start an LLC, and then what you want to make sure you're going to do is you want to go to Wells Fargo and make sure you go take out a business account. And then if you take out the business account, make sure you get about $100,000 loan. So that way, with your LLC, you want to create another LLC, and then that way, with that LLC. You can get rich this way, and then that way, whatever riches that you got from this LLC, you have the other LLC to write off your taxes, and that way you never have to pay taxes for the rest of your life and for your children. Like, you guys know. I'm trying to be animated as possible, but again, it says that he that makes haste to be rich shall not be innocent. Dirty money. Dirty money. Okay. I know I have First Timothy next, but let's just go ahead and knock these other two Proverbs verses out. That probably sounded so animated, but that's okay. Bring life to it. You know what I'm saying? Verse 21. Proverbs 20, verse 21. An inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed, shall not be blessed, shall not be blessed. You know, it's kind of interesting. Some of us are, have not been, I would say, middle class our whole life, right? So they label it lower class, middle class, high class. That may be a old terminology, fair enough. But some of us have never been middle class, right? We've always been low class and considered poor. So sometimes I would think about it. I'm like, imagine just winning the lotto or, just whatever. And now all of a sudden your financial struggles are gone. If you really look at like your life and how your life is, and maybe some of us can attest to this, but if you have a lot of financial struggles, since you were a kid, in your own family, and then maybe like right now, but you are content, like, because Yah, different things that He's done for you in your life. You're not so like you're not tripping out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a like you're still striving, especially if you have children, you make sure you got food, but Yah is the one that provides. Like He's the one that provides. So even if you're not in middle class, it's not to say that you can't come up to it, let's just say. But just making sure everything is satisfactory, is the main goal. And we're actually gonna bring that up a little bit later. But like you don't like you don't feel lower class. You feel high class in Yah. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit different, but I was thinking like imagine just winning the lotto, winning whatever, and all of a sudden now your financial problems are gone. And then now, like, what are you fully gonna praise Yah for, like in the long run, over a course of time? Like, what else are you gonna learn if now your financial struggles are gone? Like, just think about it. Like, if your financial struggles are gone right now, like, what else are you going to learn as deeply as you are now? As far as, let's just say, you know, let's just say, like it says in the land of your captivity, if you're not in the land of your captivity, or you're not captive in a certain place, you guys understand what I'm trying to say? And again, just like my sister just said, which is beautiful, she says, no matter what I have, I am rich. My father has many mansions. Beautiful, right? So again, it's the worldly possessions that people, if they get enough worldly possessions, if they get enough money to fix their problems, a lot of times when you look at those scriptures, why it says a rich man is less likely to receive heaven than a poor man, it's because the rich man now has his problems fixed. And the way that they look at Yah is going to be less than, because they don't have any problems. They like, well, I can get whatever I want. I can provide whatever I want. And the most thing that they're going to do is say, thank you, Yah. I appreciate you for making me rich. So over time, their praise isn't the same. The intimacy is not the same. It's just how it goes. But we're actually going to learn a little bit more how that's not how it's supposed to be. If you are rich in Yah, actually with possessions, He's made certain people rich, obviously, but there's a godly, yardly way to go about it if He made you rich. So that's in similitude number 2, but we're going to lead up to that in this similitude. Okay. But I just wanted to kind of present that thought. It's kind of interesting, right? And like my sister says, I am not looking to be rich according to the world's standards. Absolutely, sister. Absolutely. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yahuwah Sabaoth. We thank you for your oaths. Thank you for your covenants. Because we don't have to look at these riches at all. At all. Um, so let's continue here. And in a minute, I'm gonna make sure. I just have to, because I'm somewhere. I gotta make sure some stuff is locked, and then I'll come back on. But let me knock at least most of these scriptures in. Um, so then that way we can all kind of take a short, like 30-second break, get some snacks, because the next portion of this is gonna be fire. But let me try to finish it up on this slide here. Proverbs 23, 4 through 5. Labor not to be rich. Cease from your own wisdom. Will you set your eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle towards heaven. That's interesting. But again, labor not to be rich. Cease from your own wisdom. All right. So that was the last portion of the Proverbs. So now let's go to Sirach. Let's go to Sirach. My boy Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, but it's really Sirach. Chapter 10, verse 22. Whether he be rich, whether he be rich, noble, or poor, their glory is the fear of Yahuwah. Fear of Yahuwah. Okay? Fear of Yahuwah. That's the glory. That's the top. Because there's another scripture that says there's no one like a man or woman who has the fear of Yah in them as their foundation. No one. You are not like anyone on the earth. You are literally like literally set apart. That's why these foundations are so important. Chapter 26 of Sirach, verse 4. It says, whether a man be rich or poor, if he has a good heart towards Yahuwah, he shall at all times rejoice with a cheerful countenance. You hear that? Good heart. He shall at all times rejoice with a cheerful countenance. All right. And then let's go to chapter 11 in Sirach, verse 14. Prosperity. So now you see that word there, prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches, come of Yahuwah. Come of Yahuwah. Verse 15, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Torah are of Yahuwah. Love and the way of good works are from him. Okay, are from him. But again, you have that word prosperity there. Now, there's not really, you can't really find apocryphal lexicons or, strong concordance for the apocrypha, unfortunately. So you do have to do your research when it comes down to words and how it's connected with the Hebrew and placed in a certain type of sentence. So this doesn't necessarily have to still equate to shalom. So that's not the point of why, we're breaking this down and saying that every time you see prosperity is equal to shalom. But a lot of times when people are taking things out of context, when it comes down to the prosperity, it is shalom there. And it's not talking about just riches. It's not even really talking about riches at all. It's always it's not stipulations. That could be the word that I could use with that. But there's conditions to having that shalom, like being prosperous in your way, which we're going to look at next. Okay. So we got Sirach 11:14. So now let's go ahead and knock out 1 Timothy 6:9. Hope you are enjoying this so far. This is not this is scratching the surface right now. We got some heat. 1 Timothy 6:9. It says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. You cannot not have the love of money if you are pursuing to be rich in an evil type of way, essentially. As we have already read these other scriptures, your heart has to be on Yah. And what we're going to see later is that it should be on sufficiency, not on being rich, because whom he has made rich, he has made rich. Is we're going to read that. I think it may be in here, but whom he has made poor, he has made poor. Whom he has made middle class, quote unquote, as he has made middle class. Whatever we are ordained for, that's what we are ordained for. Not everybody is supposed to be rich. So, but again, what we're seeing here is that there is a evil gain of riches hastily and not with the right heart and not in righteousness. So therefore, that equates to someone having the love of money, which is the root of all evil. Money can also be symbolized as something else as well. I know if you guys ever read Daniel, you'll notice, I believe, maybe Daniel chapter 11, it calls this being is supposed to be honoring the god of forces or something like that. It's a strange god, as it says, an idol, and that this idol god of forces is something about like honoring this god of forces with riches and things of that nature, but it's so different. It's just something I just pull up because of the fact that it says that none of his other ancestors worship this god of forces. So it's a little bit different when it comes down to seeing that money, especially when you research more too. Money is really, it's not anything. It's not the same anymore. It's not backed up by gold. It's not backed up by anything really. It's a bunch of debt, all types of debt, and just you like as the word says, usury. Usury is evil. So unfortunately, when stuff is built off of evil, people fall into the love of the money, the love of the evil, and the whole scheme and the whole process, and they're literally chasing nothing, essentially. Isn't it interesting? But again, you guys can definitely divide that much better. Okay. Um, and then Revelation 18, I'm not going to really read that fully, but essentially what it's talking about is that the Babylon, when it's destroyed, that the kings and the princes that put their all into Babylon and put their all into this massive merchant, essentially, that sorry if you guys hear certain things in the background. Like I said, I have to go lock up some stuff. Um, they are going to wail, they're going to scream, they're going to cry when Babylon is destroyed. So you can connect that also with, things that have already happened in the past with Babylon and, obviously the land of our captivity with Yasharel. But essentially what's coming, people are going to wail and cry and scream, and because all of it says they've gotten drunk with all of the luxuries of Babylon, right? So they can no longer have the luxuries of Babylon anymore. Okay, so that's Revelation 18, and then the First John, I believe, is 2:16. I put on there is the love of all that is in the world, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, lust of the flesh. It's all in the world. It's not of the Father. It's of Hasatan. It's of the enemy. It's contrary to how we're supposed to live in Yah. Right? So these things are connected to prosperity, essentially, when it comes down to how we have to divide it, and how you'll notice that people are teaching opposite of shalom, and which we're going to see in the next slide, what true shalom is, which within the prosperity that Yah has promised us, that we will be prosperous in our ways with the shalom that surpasses all understanding. Is connected to some things that's very specific. Okay, so just give me 30 seconds, you guys. Go ahead and grab your snacks, And yes, I'm recording this. So it'll be a slight little pause here, which is good. It's all right. Give me about 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds. I'm gonna lock some stuff up and then I will be right back on. I'm just gonna put myself on mute. And I wish I could play some elevator music, but give me about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, you guys. All right, you guys. Probably the only person that does this during live studies. I've been consistently doing this in some other studies too. It's all good, especially when I have the kids around. Man, put myself on mute, discipline real quick, get back on the study. All right. So I think we got this down, the prosperity portion. When it comes down to just understanding, the more clear side of, knowing that shalom is one of the main words translated there. Um, but now we can look at who will prosper. Okay. So all of this is going to tie in with what we're reading. So just kind of just take the ride of how it's going, and then that way it will all just kind of connect. All right. So now let's go to Proverbs 11:25. So this chart is not conclusive. All right. You guys can add to this chart always. You guys can add scriptures to this chart. But I just wanted to present a simple foundational connection of what Yah says, who will prosper and who will not prosper. Okay. So let's just go ahead and knock out the who will prosper. Proverbs 11:25. Proverbs 11:25. Okay. In the Sefer, it says, the liberal soul shall be made fat, and he who waters shall be watered also himself. Okay. He who waters shall be watered also himself. All right. Again, make sure you guys go look back at these proverbs. Don't want to spend too much time on each one because almost each one is like a lesson in its own. I'm going to summarize Wisdom of Solomon chapter 6, but it's a very important chapter because it gives you this step-by-step connection in there with wisdom, of course. But essentially that chapter was written to kings. So for the kings to know that they're given authority in a position to be able to carry out the things of Yah, and for them to do the things that Yah has ordained for them to do in righteousness, and He's given them a quote unquote like a cheat sheet in a way for them to follow in order for them to stay as His ordained kings, like in order for them to stay in authority and do the things that He wants them to do in the righteous ways. But it's still written to us kings and queens, right? For us to be able to follow and understand how it all connects and how to be able to, essentially, as it says towards the end of the chapter, uh, like be incorruptible, essentially, right? Being sinless, essentially. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I put that there in the who will prosper because of the fact that it's even like the highest level, I would say, people of authority in the earth for the most part. They still have to follow his instructions. So they have to water themselves with the word. They have to make sure they are being fed the word and make sure they are following the word in order for them to prosper in whatever that they do, essentially the way that Yah has designed for their path to go, in order for them to prosper sufficiently in the ways that Yah has designed for them to prosper in, for them to reap the fruits of their labors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Proverbs 19:8 is going to say something very key. Proverbs 19:8. It says, he that gets wisdom loves his own soul. He that guards understanding shall find good. Okay. Some other translations may say prosperous ways, or, these different translations are going to say different things. I'm gonna just make sure I just read from the Sefer, and then you guys have all of the time to research these scriptures and see how it translates into the other translations and notice some very keen differences. Okay. If you ever want these slides for yourself as well, you can always message me and I can send them very quickly as I have time. Um, so let's go to 1 Kings 2:3, and then I'm only going to read, let's say, probably the Psalms one next. Okay, because I want to kind of keep moving a little bit faster on here. It says, let's see here. Okay, so verse 3, chapter 2, 1 Kings. And guard the watch of Yahuwah Elohika, to walk in his ways, to guard his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the Torah of Moshe, that you may prosper in all that you do, and whatsoever you turn yourself. Okay. So again, make sure you go look up the etymology. Make sure you go see what strong concordance that number is. And more than likely, it may be shalom, that you will gain shalom. Okay. Let's see here. We have a good foundational one, Deuteronomy 5:33, and then I'll go ahead and read Psalm 90:17. All right. Chapter 5, verse 33, Deuteronomy. It says, ye shall walk in all the ways which Yahuwah Elohim has commanded you, that ye may live, and that it may be well with you, and that ye may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. So it will be well with you. Does not sit there and say that you will be rich, but these people will tell you that you're headed to your rich land and rich house and just be rich and millionaire and all that stuff. They'll tell you that, and they'll misconstrue these scriptures. So be careful. Be careful, beloved. And the last one I'll read here on this side, go to Psalms, or you can go to Psalms 90:17. All right. Chapter 90, verse 17. It says, and let the beauty of Adonai Eloheinu be upon us, and establish the work of our hands upon us. Yea, the work of our hands establishes it. Beautiful. Okay. So very easy, simple three scriptures that I have here. Or a little bit more, but obviously the ones who will not prosper, who will not prosper. Go back to Proverbs. We're doing some Bible exercises here. Proverbs chapter 28. Chapter 28, verse 13. He that covers his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesses and forsakes them shall have mercy. So the one who covers his sins will not prosper. Simple. And it's interesting, verse 14 connects directly with it. Happy is the man that fears always. So I don't know if you guys ever remember me saying this, but this is scripture here. And it's one of the commandments that's presented in Shepherd of Hermas when it talks about the twofold fear. So essentially, if you want to do good, you fear Yah and you will do good. If you don't want to do evil, you fear Yah and you do not do the evil. It's twofold. So that way there's there's no inch of wanting to sin or even sinning, a period. You have so much fear, fear in Yah that you're going to just literally walk straight and do the right thing and be locked in. So happy is that man or woman that fears Yah always, that twofold fear. But it says, but he that hardens his heart shall fall into mischief. And that same one that's falling into mischief is the same one who is covering their sins. That's mischievous, covering your sins, being sneaky, thinking that y'all can't see what you're doing. They can't prosper. They can't have shalom. They can't have even sufficiency, because anything that they gain is evil unto Yah. It's abominable. It's not accepted. Numbers 14. Numbers 14. I know if y'all are in the church, people who grew up in the church, they were like, when you get there, say amen. Amen, Pastor. Wow. Numbers 14, verse 40. And they rose up early in the morning and got them up into the top of the mountain, saying, Lo, we be here and we'll go up into the place which Yahuwah has promised. For we have sinned. So they just literally saying, let's just go up there, even though we sinned. And Moshe said, wherefore now do you transgress the commandment of Yahuwah? But it shall not prosper. Go not up, for Yahuwah is not among you, that ye be not smitten before your enemies. So don't go up there. You have already sinned, even though you're acknowledging it, but you're getting ready to transgress, as you are already transgressed, and you think you're just going to present yourself unto the Most High, just like that, and that He's just going to cover you. Moshe said, no. You need to really tread softly and get back. It says, go not up there, verse 42, for Yahuwah is not among you, that ye be not smitten before your enemies. For the Amalekim and the Canaanite are there before you, and ye shall fall by the sword, because ye have turned away from Yahuwah. Therefore Yahuwah will not be with you. But they presumed to go up onto the hilltop. Nevertheless, the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah and Moshe departed not out of the camp. So they still did what they wanted to do, even with the ark of the covenant. It says, then the Amalekim came down, and the Canaanite which dwelt in that hill, and smote them and discomfited them, even unto Shorma. So they lost. They lost the battle. They lost the battle because they did not want to listen. Right? And obviously, if you're in sin, you can't prosper in your battles, in your spiritual battles. Just connect that very well. For a foundation that I'm sure you guys can find different scriptures and different life circumstances that you can connect there. Last one, Jeremiah 10:21. For the pastors are become brutish and have not sought Yahuwah. Therefore they shall not prosper, and their flocks shall be scattered. So you can assign this to different things, but let's just say something that came to mind. You see those pastors that get exposed, right? Those mega church pastors that eventually get exposed. Like, it's always an eventual type of thing. They may have some good stuff going on in the beginning where they kind of seem innocent, but then you just see it slowly just dying out and just exposing itself. If not, even if they are, especially nowadays because of social media, you can be a pastor that is doing some wild stuff and still have a platform boosted for you to just continue to do your wild stuff because of the supporters that you have. And they won't cancel you until it's a collective vote, essentially, that says, let's cancel this person. Let's cancel this pastor. Like the stuff I just seen recently, and I don't really want to mention his name because I don't really know how YouTube is doing things these days. But the stuff I just saw, if I can't even, like, it was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I'm like, why would you give that type of example like that? It was terrible. Terrible. But you guys can attach different things to that, right? But again, this is just very simple. Who will prosper? Those who are keeping his commandments, those who are doing doing the things of his word, righteousness, in fear, with wisdom, essentially, and you will prosper. And those who will not are the ones that's not doing those things, who are not walking in the foundations. Period. It's like it's nothing else. It's really that drawn of a line. So when you are on the good side right there with the who will prosper, that's because you're walking in the path of righteousness. So you literally have nothing to fear. You are going to prosper. Now, I'm not, and again, we're not talking about you are going to be rich. You are going to have shalom. You are going to have his presence. You are going to have his ruach in your life and guiding you. You are going to have his salvation. You're going to have his like when he intervenes in ways where you didn't even, like, you just never even thought he was going to come through in a mighty way, and those miracles and even the little things, like he's going to be there. So that's why I try to help people see also with the phrase Asher, or sometimes they say Ahaya, Asher, Ahaya. That phrase, when you look at it, he was really trying to tell Moses, to tell Israel, that he's the one that literally the ancestors knew, and that he will be with them, essentially. He's the one that created, et cetera, et cetera. He's the one that was being spoke of, and that literally he is going to do everything he's going to do. He's going to stay with us. He's going to literally be with us, that you have nothing to worry about. So even when people are talking about like the faith of a mustard seed, you have to realize, even though the mustard seed is small, it's massive to y'all. We like men, we look at stuff and we say that's just a mustard seed. Do you realize that mustard seed is massive? There's like, we like, again, can you consistently have faith as a mustard seed, as big as a mustard seed? If you can't consistently have faith, as much faith as big of as big of a mustard seed, consistently, you have it, you have way smaller faith than that. You have to think about that. Why can't we just have just a faith of a mustard seed, like a small little tiny mustard seed? That's how we see it, but it's actually massive in a spiritual sense. Hope that didn't go over somebody's head. But you guys understand what I'm saying? Like it's bigger than what we would read essentially. And it's like, okay, this is really what y'all are saying. Because we like faith is another foundation of all of this. How do you have say you have the foundations, fear, wisdom, and righteousness, but your faith is weak? How do you say you're strong in those foundations, but your faith is weak? That's impossible. That's impossible. Because the faith is supposed to get strong. Like these are the other portions of the fruits that are attached to the branches. You want fruit. You want to be bearing fruit, and then you notice that the Son is the vine and the Father is the vine dresser. You can't just have any fruits on there. So sometimes your fruits, your labors, may seem like it was useless earlier, but he's like, no, I needed you just to learn something from that. So that way, the next time I put you in the same situation or a different situation, your fruits are stronger. Your fruits are bigger. The righteousness that you had earlier is now even bigger than that from last time. These are more righteous works. These are more pure works, et cetera, et cetera. Right? As Sister said, he picked Yasharel, who was not a big nation. We were small, and he provided the increase. All glory to Almighty Yah. Absolutely, sister. He always provides the increase. Always. Right? Always. Okay, so let's keep moving. All right. And here. So I just wanted to make sure I mention this. These two foundational scriptures, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yah and guard his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. And the other one on the right side, he has commanded no man to do wickedly, neither has he given any man license to sin. Okay, so we understand this, right? We are seeing this. Just give yourself a little minute, not a whole minute, for the study, to kind of just meditate on this a little bit. Just meditate on it, just a little bit. Now, I want you to understand too, the Son summed up the commandments, as they try to say, label it Mosaic law, essentially, but it's the commandments, the charges that he gave us, that's attached to the instructions which we read, and we have knowledge, intimacy, and understanding, and he's given us counsel throughout the word on how to ensure that we don't break these charges, that we don't break these commandments, these instructions. And we have them in our heart. We have them, and we're trying to make sure we follow in his footsteps and in Yah's instructions in his ruach, not just in our own way, because his ways are not our ways. His ways are above ours, right? So we have to understand essentially that he has not given us any license to sin. He told us what we have to do in order to live. He's already told us. Okay. So he's told us these different things. He's told us, he set the bar for what we are supposed to understand, what we're supposed to know. You guys can do your own research as well when it comes down to the beginning portions and, how instructions was given out. One of my sisters was asking me the other day, like, why does it seem like he only gave Yasharel the commandments or the Torah, quote unquote, and why does it seem like it was just that? But I helped her trace a line back to the beginning, and you really get so much more understanding when you read the book of Jubilees. Jubilees is a very important book. Okay, very, very important book. Yes, there are some discrepancies in the dates. There's discrepancies in the dates in First Chronicles. I think in Second Chronicles. Throughout some other books as well. But you have to divide it well. A little bit of research will just show you that there's people out there who have dedicated their time and efforts to writing articles on this stuff and scholarly research for you to be able to go get and divide. And that way you don't have to throw a whole book away. And again, just like I told you guys, I'm going to be able to show you guys some things in Jasher that I want you guys to pay attention to make sure you're careful. Okay. But we're seeing this, right? So now let's go back to Hermas. All right. So we just set the tone for the prosperity portion, the shalom, the being able to see what our duty is, and especially because we are all servants of Yah that are listening right now or are on a journey to be so. We are all servants of Yah. Okay. So let's go back. Now this is when it's going to start getting great. And I have to go through these slides. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see, there it is. That's a better way. All right, perfect. Okay. Okay. So we're going to read now. So we did stop on verse 4, but I'm going to reread from verse 2. Okay. So it says, if you are preparing these things for this city, okay, this foreign city, this foreign country, this strange land, expensive possessions and buildings and things like that. It says, if you are preparing these things for this city, you obviously are not planning to return to your own city. Foolish and double-minded and miserable person, do you not realize that all these things are foreign to you and under someone else's authority? So again, so we're stopping here. Do you know what your city is if you are a servant of Yah? Do you know what you should be preparing for your city, for your place that is assigned to you as a servant of Yah? Do you know? Just a rhetorical question. So now I'm going to show you guys, and I'm not going to read all of this. So if you want to screenshot this, perfect. For the sake of time, I definitely cannot. I'm not going to read every single scripture as I would love to. These are going to pop back up. So what I wanted to do at least was to show you some things for you to go research on your own time and your studies and connect some things. Because these are going to come up in some studies that are coming up. Okay. Now, the city in which you are to dwell if you are a servant of Yah, that city or that land is a land of milk and honey. Okay, that's Leviticus 20:24. That's just one scripture. Okay, it's a land of milk and honey. I do have if you're on Instagram, I have a story highlight. You gotta slide all the way down on the story highlights. I have a lot. There's a story highlight on honey, and it's some awesome things on honey that you can look into. And I was supposed to finish the milk portion. That was so long ago. But again, it's more connection with the honey portion than it is the milk. It's not that super deep with the milk, as far as I know. But the honey part was very significant. Okay. So the city which you are to dwell, your land that is assigned to you, if you are judged as righteous, is a land of milk and honey. Your place is also Eden. It's paradise. Now I want you to really think about this, you guys. Adam and Eve, they were, and according to Jubilees, they were given job training. And Adam had 40 days before he was placed in the Garden of Eden. And Eve was given 80 days before she was put in the Garden of Eden. Think about what I just said. Before they were put in the Garden of Eden, they were not given the whole Eden. They were not given the whole Eden, just a garden. Just a garden. Okay? Just a garden. And I'm paraphrasing this for you guys because I have to, again, flow with the study to try to, I got to still show you guys some different things. But what you're going to see is that in Jubilees, it says that they were, once they got into the Garden of Eden, they did exactly what they were supposed to for 7 years exactly. And then Hasatan shows up in the second month of that 7th year. So in the past studies, I may have said wrongly that right at that 7th year, Hasatan showed up. So that's my apologies. And it's very innocently I said that. But I recently was going over it again yesterday. And I even, I made sure I admit that to a sister of mine that watches a lot of my studies as well, and another brother as well. Because sometimes, I may say certain things like that on accident. It's not even on purpose, y'all. So I just want to make sure any studies that you ever heard that may have said the same thing, just remember. He came in the second month. This is according to Jubilees. He came in the second month of that 7th year. Now, he came in that 7th year, Hasatan, to beguile Eve, because if you know about the Jubilees, that 7th year was a Jubilee. And so essentially their guard was down. So he didn't just come right when they started resting. He waited to the second month to do so, purposefully. So just knowing how much they were in rest, their guard was essentially down, right? But going back to Eden in paradise, in Enoch saw paradise. There's a lot of people who saw paradise. Okay, when you research the etymology of Eden, and I'm going to show you really quick the etymology of Eden, if I have it here. Oh man, come on, do I not have it? Please. I know, I screenshotted this for you guys, but I guess I did not. That's messed up. It's messed up, yo. And I know I did go over this in the I think maybe it was the second Enoch study. There was some fire connection with Eden and the angel that is essentially guarding the Eden portion, like where they were put, the angels were put in the garden. And this was the one right here, you guys. This was the article that I showed the last study for Enoch, and it's talking about the flaming sword. And basically, I just wanted to show you guys that Eden, it basically means paradise. So you see that last paragraph there. The word Eden, it means paradise. It's a place of pleasure. Okay. It's very, 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 very interesting. Okay. So let's just go with the regular generic understanding of Eden being paradise. Okay. And let me go back to my slide here. So we're talking about what city you're supposed to be dwelling in if you are judged as righteous. So in Second Baruch, chapter 4. Okay, so I will read this one because this is very, very essential. Okay, very essential. So make sure you take your notes on this one as well. Second Baruch, chapter 4. I'm going to read 3 through 6. Okay, it says, "This building now built in your midst." So this person is talking to Baruch. "This building now built in your midst is not that which is revealed with me, that which was prepared beforehand, here from the time when I took counsel to make paradise and showed it to Adam before he sinned. But when he transgressed the commandment, it was removed from him, as also paradise. Paradise was removed from him." Okay. Verse 4, "And after these things I showed it to my servant Abraham by night among the portions of the victims, And again, also I showed it to Moshe on Mount Sinai when I showed to him the likeness of the tabernacle and all its vessels. And now behold, it is preserved with me as also paradise. So if you insert, instead of paradise, you put Eden, I want you to really read that. Eden is preserved with the one who got counsel to make paradise, the one who received counsel to make this world, to make the things in it. When you go read Enoch chapter 14, Enoch calls the Father, who we call the Father, Abba, he calls him the glorious and effulgent one. And he notates, he says, this one, counsel is needless. So it can't be the same one as this one who got counsel to make paradise. You guys understand what I'm saying here, right? So this one that's in chapter 4 of Second Baruch, who got counsel to make paradise. This one, literally, you guys are imagining, not even, you're just imagining, like literally, like there's one, the one who performed surgery on Adam to remove his rib and then closed up the womb. The one who was walking in the Garden of Eden looking for Adam and Eve. He knew where they were, but walking. The one that wrote on the tablets of stone with his finger. The sapphire, gave the sapphire stone. Where did the sapphire come from? When you look up the throne of the sapphire, the throne with sapphire, you guys are going to notice. I believe that the son took a piece of his throne and wrote his word that he got from his father on it to give to Moshe. And unfortunately, he had to break it when he got down the hill and saw his people tripping out. But it's like little things like that you guys are going to start connecting. At least I'm going to try to help you guys as well, if you've never seen it before, to be able to connect these little intricate pieces. Because the sun is very underlooked, I would say, especially in the Old Testament. It's very difficult, even with the Sefer, but you have to have a very keen eye for it. It's not what people are going to tell you, especially when they're anti-Mashiach, because they don't understand a lot of anything, really. Like, they have a lot of devoid wisdom. They cherry pick to shut down a bunch of things. But again, the natural man does not understand the spiritual things of Yah. But you can see something very clear here. There's one who is receiving counsel. There's a Yahuwah that's receiving counsel here. And then in chapter 14 of Enoch, he says this one does not receive, the counsel is needless. And he can't even look up at this one. Angels can't even go into his habitation, but they will not leave it. They won't leave around it. It's beautiful. It's just amazing. But again, I'm trying to give you guys a summary of different things here, because I can't go into each one, but I wanted to at least list these scriptures for you to go check out. So paradise is guarded by the Son, it's with him. In 4th Ezra, he talks about how he tells Ezra the kingdom is already prepared for you. He tells him different things about the kingdom already. In Luke chapter 23:43, you have something about Eden, etc., etc. So again, you guys make sure you go research these things. The next portion, New Jerusalem, or I've spelled it Jerusalem, because Jerusalem and Eden are the same. Jerusalem. Yeah. Jerusalem. Some say Jerusalem, but let's use the Y, right? That is Eden. And again, you guys, like I said earlier, most know about New Jerusalem. Most know that in Revelation, it's coming from the sky. Think about what we just learned about Eden just in that short time frame. Think about how he planted He told Adam and Eve, I'm going to put you here. But he didn't give them the whole Eden. You're not going to mess with the whole Eden. I'm going to preserve it. So when you guys also see how Jerusalem is named that way for a certain reason. Okay, so I'm going to show you right now, and some of you guys probably are like, "What? I don't know. I don't know if y'all liking this right now. I don't know, but I'm going to present it in the study regardless." Jerusalem. The meaning is in awe of peace or teaching peace. The etymology has the verb yara, to throw or cast or to shoot, or the other portion of the etymology yara, to fear, and it's mainly for the shalom. The verb is to make whole or complete. Okay, let's look at some more. It says, without a doubt, the second and dominant part of the name of shalom, meaning peace, you have the root word shalim. Okay, it denotes completeness, wholeness, soundness. It means to make whole or complete, to describe a righteous recompense or a proper restitution, whether positive or not. Familiar noun shalom means wholeness, completeness, or peace. Okay, so you guys see that. And it says other derivatives, shalim, peace offering, shalom, to be in covenant of peace, to be in covenant of peace. Perfect wholeness, recompense, right? So you see these pattern words. Okay, there's a little bit more with Jerusalem here. The first part of the name Jerusalem may likely have reminded a Hebrew audience, Yara, to throw or cast or shoot. So it means essentially describes the bringing about of a unified effect by means of many little impulses. So again, you guys will revisit this on your own. But we're seeing here that it's a not just a moment, it's like a wholeness. It's bringing everything together. Okay. And you see there, you even have the word Torah even mentioned. Okay. But you see that Yara is even talking about, what does it say? A perspective of the receiving soil, to revere, to pay heed to, in extreme cases, to fear, to cover a broad spectrum between reverence and fear. Just all types of foundations that we see just in the name alone of Jerusalem. And then this last one sums it up basically. It says, perhaps the name Jerusalem has never changed, but only Hebraised, because it seems to mean reign of peace. Jerusalem was to be the radiating heart of a world of completeness and wholeness. It seems that history supplied her with the most suiting name: possession of peace, foundation of peace. So again, with Eden meaning paradise, essentially, or land of pleasure, you connect these different things. You have the land of pleasure of 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 the land of paradise that is in possession of peace, essentially, right? Let's just say. So now let's go back to our slide here. And again, you guys, please revisit this because I'm just trying to give a really good summary. You're going to see in Jeremiah 33:6, First Baruch 4:30, you're going to see that Yahuwah Sidkanu, or Yahuwah Shalom, he put his name on Jerusalem. So his name is on Eden, is on paradise. So even if you refer to Jerusalem, you still are referring to him. So again, you have to go read it to see it for yourself, especially Jeremiah 33:6. It says his name, he puts his name on it, and his name is Yahuwah Sidkanu, Yahuwah of righteousness. Okay, so then the next portion there, and this is all in the city that you are to dwell. The places where you, if you are judged as righteous, this is where you will be dwelling with this king. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second, you guys. Sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. Somebody trying to call me. Okay. So, sorry. I'm sorry. Let me get somebody back in this waiting room. Okay. So, when you guys research King of Salem, and you'll see it, there was only one that was literally coming from Salem. The only one that was coming from Salem. Now, this is where you have to be careful with the Book of Jasher, because the Book of Jasher will tell you that it was Shem that came from Salem. That it was Shem was the king of Salem. But it doesn't make any sense, because the same people who mess with Jasher don't believe in the sun. They don't even acknowledge the sun. They have different things that go against the sun. So they've written rabbinical Judaism, or whether it's mysticism in there, little different things that will tell you that it's also connected to some of the targums. So you just have to do your research and be careful. But literally, you guys can see there's Genesis 14:18. You even have Psalm 76:2. Okay. And I'm going to read that, at least just to have it in the study, just to have it recorded in the study. So that way you guys will, if you're taking notes or something like that, maybe it's a good train of thought to have. But let me see here. Psalm 76:2. Okay. And it's so clear, you guys. It's so clear. The more you have connected, the better. But Psalm 76:2, it says, in Yehuda is Elohim known. His name is great in Yasharel. In Shalem also is his tabernacle and his dwelling place in Zion. So again, Elohim, Yahuwah Elohim, in Shalem is his tabernacle. So again, they only want to equate Shem and Jasher, that Salem was the tabernacle for him, but they're missing some key components here, because they're also trying to say that Abraham gave tithes to Shem. When you go research where the tithes are supposed to go first, you are going to see that there's no way it could have went to Shem right off the back, because those tithes don't go to a man, they go to Yah, and then Yah spreads them out to his priests. Just go research it, you guys. And then Psalms 110. It's a psalm about Melchizedek, Malik Sedek. I think that's how you pronounce it in the Sefer. Malik, if I'm not mistaken. It is, yeah, Malki Sedek. I'm sorry. And the very first verse, it says, Yahuwah said unto my Adonai, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footpath. So again, the Sefer, it doesn't always translate a lot of things very well for you to really get like the gist of, like, okay, it's talking about the Son, it's talking about the Father. This is very, 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 very easy, because also David wrote a lot of things that was prophetic, because he was obviously in the Ruach. So he's writing, Yahuwah said unto my Adonai. So David said unto his Adonai, the father Yahuwah, because they share the same name. So of course in Sefer, it's just really tough sometimes if you don't have a trained eye to kind of see, okay, which, is it the father Yahuwah, son Yahuwah, etc. The only time it's translated as Yahusha in the Old Testament is literally in 4th Ezra. And that's apocrypha, you guys. So you really have to be keen, especially if you're reading in Enoch. You see Yahuwah said canoe, etc., etc. But they share the same name, but you'll notice some keen differences, and you'll see how the flow of the conversation is going. But Psalms 110 is about Melchizedek, and it tells you. It says verse 4, and it doesn't say this in the Sefer app. It doesn't say 7 oaths. It may just say oaths, or it just may say covenants, but it doesn't say 7 oaths. It's very important to know why. It's a difference when you're reading it in the plain version, like in the actual physical copy. 7 oaths is actually very important to actually understand too, because that number 7 is very key. But it says, verse 4, Yahuwah has sworn 7 oaths and will not repent. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek. Adonai at your right hand shall strike through kings in the day of his wrath. Okay, so this is all connecting to the king of Salem, the king of paradise, the one who has paradise with him. So then you read Hebrews 7 too, and then you get even more connections. And then you read about Yahuwah Sidkenu and Shalom, all those scriptures there, and you get all these connections, and you literally are looking at the son of his father, the son of the father, the one who has many names, son of Adam, the elect one, the beloved, the wounded one, King Melchizedek or Melchizedek, King of righteousness, etc., etc., etc. So again, this is not discarding the Father at all. You cannot discard the Father because there is no Son without him. But it's showing you the order of how this is all even going. This is all connected. Why there's a 1,000-year reign that is coming so he can sanctify the earth. When he lands on Mount Sinai, Sion, he cleanses the earth. And he starts this portion of him presenting his fruits, his first fruits to his father. Why people think they can just literally just walk up to the Father and just present themselves as crazy. Like that's just crazy nonsense. You don't understand how sanctified, even Enoch, who was born for righteousness, he's born as a son of righteousness, scribe of righteousness. He could not even look up at the Father. He had to have a veil over his face. And then he was called to the Father, but he could only literally go to the door and still was looking down. There's no angels that could even go into his presence, but the only one who could do so is his son, whom literally the Father exalted and put on a throne in order for him to reign as king, in order for him, because he sanctified all things through him, who got counsel to do so. Really let you know how truly set apart the Father is, and that there cannot be just anybody who's in his presence. How really how really we really got to really be in these foundations and really lock in to really make it and be judged as righteous, y'all. But again, this is all, if you are judged as righteous, this is what you dwell. This is just a snippet of all that is your city, not this strange land. This strange land has nothing of this, what we just talking about. Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even close. Okay, so not even close. You understand? You know what I'm saying? It's not even close. Okay? So let's go back to Shepherd of Hermas. I hope all of that made sense. And again, you guys have to go revisit all of that. Absolutely revisit. I just have to give me 1 second, y'all. I just gotta get back to that number one. Okay, give me 1 second here. And if you guys have any little like questions also in the midst of it, just let me know. I know it's a detailed study again, but you gotta go revisit it as well. If you have any questions or comments on the side, absolutely, you're always able to do so. I'm open. I'll respond as much as I can. All right. So basically, why would we be preparing for anything in this strange land? Now, this is not to knock anybody who has bought a house or has investments and things of that nature. It's just to look at it a little bit different, you know. But again, the portion of this parable is saying, do not set your treasures here on earth, right? So let's read again. If you are preparing, verse 2, these things for this city, you obviously are not planning to return to your own city. So if your treasures are here on this earth and everything is dwelling on these treasures in earth, you obviously are not preparing for what is promised to you. Where eyes have not seen, ears have not heard the things that are prepared for us. And I may have said that last part wrong, but I was just trying to stay in connection with what we're reading here. What is prepared for us? Just going off of muscle memory. You guys can correct me if I was wrong. Verse 3, foolish and double-minded and miserable person, do you not realize that all these things are foreign to you, especially if you're a servant of Yah and under someone else's authority, not Yah's authority, not because in his authority, you see what his authority is. It's paradise. For the Lord of this city, that's not his, will say, I do not want you to live in my city. Instead, leave this city because you do not conform to my laws. So you have fields and dwellings and many other possessions. What will you do? So it says, so you who have fields and dwellings and many other possessions, essentially that you are tied to, what will you do with your field and your house and all the other things you have prepared for yourself when you are expelled by him, when you are kicked out? What are you going to do? For the Lord of this country has every right to say to you, because it's his land and his laws, either conform to my laws or get out of my country. So what are you going to do since you are subject to the law of your own city? For the sake of your fields and the rest of your possessions, will you totally renounce your own law? Will you totally announce your own election and live according to the law of this city and sell your soul to the beast, essentially? That could hit someone right now. I'm not sure. It says, take care, it may not be in your best interest to renounce your law. For if you should want to return to your city, which you're promised to, if you're judged as righteous and you're walking in the righteous ways and the ways we're supposed to, you would certainly not be accepted because you have renounced the law of your city and will be shut out of it. It may not be in your best interest to renounce your law, for if you should want to return to your own city. So again, how can you essentially, how can you renounce your election? For an example, Hebrews chapter 6 tells you that someone who has tasted of the heavenly gifts, spiritual awakening, has had understanding and knowledge of Yah. If they are to commit apostasy, rebel against it, and think they can just receive forgiveness after all of that by purposely just being ignorant, and not even being ignorant, purposely denouncing and walking in evil on purpose and denouncing all of that, that they should get, do they think they are going to get forgiveness of sins? Absolutely not. Because it says it's like you're spitting on Yah. It's like you're putting him to an open shame. So that's why it's saying it may not be in your best interest to renounce your law, renounce your election. For if you should want to return, you think you're going to go back to the path of righteousness, you will certainly not be accepted because you have renounced the law, the Torah of your city, and you will be shut out of it. It's essentially just like the versions, the 10 versions that you had, the 5 foolish and 5 wise. It's just very similar. That's why, again, we talk about the similitudes and the definition of it. You can connect different parables. Okay. So take care as one living in a foreign land. Do not prepare for yourself one thing more than is necessary to be self-sufficient. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to share with you guys some more connections here. So in 4th Ezra, okay, or 2nd Esdras, 4th Ezra, chapter 14. Okay, it's not an easy chapter to read for some people, but chapter 14, 9 through 18, and I'll say 15 actually. 9 through 18, you have Ezra is getting ready to get pulled up. So Yah is telling him to set his house. Verse 13, he says, "Set your house in order, reprove your people, renounce corruption, let go from your mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off the weak nature, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto you, and haste you to flee away from these times, because greater evils which you have seen happen shall be done hereafter." So then you get to chapter 15, and you get verse 40. It talks about some more things that are supposed to be happening. And I may have typed that wrong. I think it's supposed to be chapter 16, you guys. I'm sorry. Chapter 16. At verse 40, it says, "O my people, hear my word, make you ready to your battle." Okay, so you'll notice that in chapter 1 of Enoch, because a lot of these, obviously, a lot of the apocryphal books are very connected. In chapter 1 of Enoch, it says, "The word of the blessing of Shinnach, how he blessed the elect and the righteous, who were to exist in the time of trouble." Speaking of Jacob's trouble, in the time of trouble, in the time of this elect and righteous generation's battle, the last one that's coming. So that's why I said it's the soon times, not the end times, it's the soon times. We've been saying those end times for a very long time. It is the end times, but it's the soon times. It's coming soon. And it's already in here. It's already here. But the biggest portion is coming soon. So from verse 40, you'll see here, it says, "Make you ready for your battle, and those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. He that sells, let him be as he that flees away. He that buys, as one that will lose. He that occupies merchandise, as he that has no profit by it. And he that builds, as he that shall not dwell therein." You guys see where we're going here? Verse 43, "He that sows, as if he should not reap, so also he that plants the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry, as they that shall not get any children, and they that marry not, as the widowers. And therefore they that labor, labor in vain, for strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. Into captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sin. The more that they deck all their houses and collect these possessions and things of that nature, he's going to be angry with them. And he's talking about his people. His people. Verse 49 says Yahuwah, verse 48. 49, like as a whore envies a right, honest, and virtuous woman, so shall righteousness hate iniquity when she decks herself, and shall accuse her to her face when he comes that shall defend him that diligently searches out every sin upon earth. And therefore be ye not like thereunto, nor to the works thereof. Don't be like these other people who are doing this. For yet a little, for a little while, iniquity shall be taken away out of the earth, and righteousness shall reign among you. That's why that Jacob's trouble is not going to be for that long, because you guys know the other scriptures where it says, for even the elect would essentially fail if it was longer than it was supposed to be. Essentially, let's just say, just paraphrasing. So you have a very detailed connection here. Yes, it does say that some of us, this is going to happen to some of us in our time of trouble. And it does give you, specifically in 4th Ezra, somewhere earlier in the chapters, that those who are able to make it to the end are going to be super blessed, of course, like the end of when the sun is coming. But they have to flee. You have other connections like Apocalypse of Elijah and things like that. But they have to flee from desert to desert, city to city. You know, it's going to take some prep, like some really good preparation and all types of stuff. Not everybody's meant to survive all of that. Some will. Everybody has an ordained path. It's just not nice to hear it, but that's why I tried to do the preparation series, and I was it was on pause for a very long time, and at least it's coming back within here because I was trying to get some other people involved to be able to provide some wisdom, and I think y'all just kind of put it to the side because there were some other things that we needed to understand as well and get prepared for. But this is very, very key because you guys see how what's going on right now. And so for an experience that I had within the pandemic, there was rental protection. I'm pretty sure you guys remember that. And I had torn my ACL and dislocated my knee playing ball. And I had planned to try to go overseas in that summer. So I tore it in October. I always forget the year. I can't even really remember how the years lines up because it's like a blur. But it was like October, and then in that summer, I had already had an agent that was going to work with me to get overseas in that summer. So I ended up going to a tournament on a Sunday and messed my knee up, tore it. Y'all took it out. But I know that I waited like a year and a half to get surgery. So I mean, I'm still into sports performance, but I was really into sports performance, and I knew my body enough how to, walk and, still do certain things. And I trained basketball players as well. So and some fitness back then, but I knew how enough to, still be solid. And, I was able to help my wife deliver first baby and all types of stuff. So I got around the time where it was like, okay, now I need to choose to get this surgery because now with this pandemic up, I actually have a little bit of time to actually do something. It was something that presented an opportunity where if I didn't get the surgery right then in that February, I would have to wait till September. And the guy who was working on my knee, he's worked on a lot of pro athletes. So it was key for me to get it. And I didn't want to, but I had to. And I didn't know. I thought it was partially torn, but it was full torn. So with ACL, it's literally, if you know of anything about it, it's Y'all designed that ACL for it not to have any blood flow, supposedly, to be able to go have blood flow in there for it to heal essentially on its own, even with nutrients or anything like that. So if you want a full blown full ACL, you got to get surgery. And of course, that was really tough for me to do that, but I did. But I also knew going in that because of me working, especially, I was afraid that we were going to have financial problems. But we prayed about it, and just we're trying to plan it out and everything like that. So, I planned it to where I got the surgery in February, and I busted my butt enough to get my knee solid enough to go start doing my basketball training again. But my other job wasn't available because the pandemic like messed that up. It messed my other job up, and it was like I didn't have that income coming in. But stuff was still okay because of the rental protection, all of that. So I was just trying to, you guys know, I'm trying to like just get it started, get the finances going, while I'm still healing. Not even 100%. I'm like 50%. All of a sudden, the rental protection stops. And this is while I was in California. The rental protection stopped suddenly, and now we got to come up with some rent. Now, essentially, we were trying to save. We were trying to prepare, but it was some things that was a little tough, and even on our end, it was on our mistake too, not to prepare enough. My wife and I, we're going through some stuff as well, in our marriage, and some growing pains essentially, and we just weren't on one accord, and I was putting too much on myself to just do everything and not communicate and things like that. So, we hit a wall, but essentially what I'm trying to show you guys is that rental protection literally stopped out of nowhere without a moment's notice. And I mean, y'all, it was tough. And I mean, literally, this is in May. No, this is in the beginning of May. We basically had to move. We literally, y'all did it because y'all literally, he orchestrated the whole event, of course, but he pulled us out like Egypt, like he pulled his people out of Egypt. Started us all the way over to a whole new state. We did a road trip to the new state. Like Israel is going on supposed to be 11 days, and they went on a 40-year journey. That type stuff like that. But it was just crazy. Like literally, but he moved us because we were in an uncomfortable state, and he moved us in that uncomfortable state. Now, if we would have got comfortable, if we would have if we would have reached our aspirations of having a house and all these little different things, and then he told us to move, it would have been incredibly difficult to just go and do what he asked us to do. Now we're obedient, but again, like to avoiding double-mindedness, a double heart. You know what I'm saying? Like the emotions, avoiding all of that. He allowed us to avoid all of that. It hurt for sure. It hurt. But we didn't have anything left. It was like you start all over now. And he told us, do not look back, literally like Lot. He said, do not look back. And we have not looked back ever since. But what I want you guys to focus on is that rental protection to stop. And literally the day we were leaving to start our road trip, they called us and said, oh, we actually have it for you guys now for the next 6 months. And we said, we are literally already on our way to the next state. It's too late. Talk about y'all's timing, right? So I'm telling you guys to show you that anything can change at a moment's notice with all of this stuff. So now what you're seeing is in Shepherd of Hermas with the laws of the land, now I can show you these videos It's not going to be long, but this information, I'm going to show you some information first, and then some videos about the law of the land. Okay? It's very important because you notice Hermas is saying that when they switch it up and they say you got to go because you're not abiding by these laws, it's for a reason, and that's coming. They're already changing things up, but I want you guys to see it for yourself, at least some definitions, you know what I'm saying, and then be able to connect it. So let's see here. So here's the first one. We're not going to read it fully, but it says the expression law of the land comes from the Latin words lex terrae or legem terrae, which is defined in Black's Law's Dictionary to mean all laws that are enforced within a country or region, including statute law and case-made law. The concept of law of the land first flapped its wings in 1215 in Magna Carta. Since then, the term has been interpreted by different scholars and jurists to formulate numerous legal propositions and doctrines. Let's see here. What do I really want to get here? It says it can be understood as the law that fulfills the basic necessities of man, the fundamental rights, or the law which prohibits arbitrary use of powers by any authority, or laws which primarily define the structure of the government of a country or aggregate of basic principles of all fields of life, like property, rights, crime, etc. So it's sounding like, essentially, just to summarize it, the law of the land it's sounding like it's a balanced type of way for everybody to get, you know, life, liberty, and property, essentially. Okay, just a solid, okay summary of what we're reading, right? So this is just one version of it. I want you guys to, you know, research it on your own, obviously, but this is from the Black Laws Dictionary. So it gives you some detailed portion of it. So you notice with the United States of America, it says the U.S. Constitution also adopted the concept in its supremacy clause. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made of which shall be made under the authority of the U.S., shall be the supreme law of the land. So the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. This inclusion reflects the predominant nature of the term within every field of U.S. administration, legislation, and judiciary. None of the branches can suffix without the firm roots of the law of the land. Okay? So now we have the definition, essentially, that the law of the land is the Constitution. Okay? Is the Constitution. Just keep with that thought, all right? This is more information. It's basically the same thing that we just read. I just wanted to kind of show you guys. I don't know who that dude is. I guess, yeah, I don't know who that is. Let's just call him Chad. But outside of Chad here, the law of the land is the whole body of valid laws, statutory or otherwise, existing and enforced in a country or jurisdiction at a particular day. Every valid statute is a law of the land with respect to its subject matter. Now, look at this. The law of the land is constantly changing. As new statutes are enacted and old ones repealed, and new principles evolve. This is on the law side, y'all. The law of the land is constantly changing. Did Hermas not say that? When he gets ready to change, when the Lord of the land gets ready to change the law of the land, and he kicks you out, what will you do if you are attached to your possessions that you invested into this land that's not even supposed to be yours? If you are judged as righteous, you have a land that's kept with the Son that is paradise. As my sister said earlier, that has mansions. The mansions that we think is mansions may not even really, it's on a whole different level. That might have been a pun, but I'm not really sure. It was unintentional. But you see, it's always changing. New principles evolve. So this is another article I found. Talks about seizing private land as the next step in fight against climate change. Okay. Um, and it's just basically, it says here that right there in that third paragraph, there is a major effort under the Biden administration to consolidate power over land and resources. Now, I do not own, I guess I got to say this, I'm not sure with YouTube. I don't own the rights to this article. So I'm not saying anything against Biden administration, just in case. I'm just reading the article that who wrote this? Kevin Stockland, December 12th, 2023. These are not my own words. Did it? All right. There's a major effort under the Biden administration to consolidate power over land and resources because whoever owns the land and resources of a nation controls the people. Whoever owns the land and resources of a nation controls the people. You guys read that. That's really what I just wanted to read from here. Okay. Obviously this article is pretty detailed. But you see privately owned land, 1.3 billion acres, 70% of the land in 48 states is privately owned. 70 privately owned. It's all types of information in here. Just crazy. What you think you know, you really don't know. But again, we're just trying to show you here. Whoever owns the land and the resources of a nation controls the people. Okay. And I think I'm just supposed to show you guys the videos now. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick to show you guys these videos. It's obviously from YouTube, and now it's going into the one I'll show you first. Okay. Let's see here. Share screen. You guys should be able to hear it as well. Oh.
When we talk about civil government, I think we should first of all realize that it's a blessing. God established civil government as a blessing to human beings to protect us against the great evil of anarchy, when people do wrong and bring harm to other people and there's no legal or effective authority to punish wrongdoing. So according to Romans 13 and 1 Peter 2, God instituted government, civil government, to punish evil and encourage good, executing justice on wrongdoers and defending the weak and defenseless. As far as the responsibility of a Christian citizen is concerned, Paul says in Romans 13, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. So Christians should be subject to the government. I think that means in general we have an obligation before God to obey the laws that government gives to us, except when the government commands us to sin. And we have a number of examples in the Bible where God's people disobeyed the government. The Egyptian midwives who kept alive the baby boys that were born to the Israelites in the early part of the book of Exodus, or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who would not bow down to the golden image in the book of Daniel, or Daniel himself who disobeyed the command not to pray to anybody except the king, and he prayed openly to God in Jerusalem. Esther, who disobeyed the decree of the king, King Ahasuerus, and she walked uninvited into the king's presence, risking her life, but in doing so she saved the Jewish people from destruction. Or the apostles in the early church in the book of Acts, where the ruling authority for the Jewish people, the Jewish Sanhedrin, commanded them not to preach the gospel, but Jesus had told them to preach the gospel, and so they said, we must obey God rather than men. So all of those examples show that there are times when God's people disobeyed a law of government that was commanding them to sin, and the narrative in Scripture views that action with approval. So we should be subject to government and generally obey its laws, but where it commands us to do something contrary to God's direct, clear moral teachings, then we should disobey.
Yeah. So, sorry for the background noise if I had any background noise. Um, but that was very clear, right? Very clear. I have another video to show you, and just real quick before I do show you that, I have this slide here, and I'm gonna kind of go over that slide. I have a few more things to talk to you guys about, but I'm gonna go ahead and show this next one. This next video is basically just kind of giving you just kind of like a mindset just to think about kind of like life and liberty and property and things of that nature. It's a study that's presented by Harvard, and this guy is just talking. I'm only going to share the first 5 minutes. Okay, so it's very important. You may not understand a lot of it, but just kind of hear certain portions of it, so that way you kind of connect it, and you guys can always watch it on your own. Okay, but it obviously matters just for you to have it kind of like in your mind and your conscious, just to kind of connect with everything, and it's going to make sense. Okay, 1 second. Just pulling it up. Of course. Sorry, it's over here. The data somehow is messing up. But those who are left in the study, I appreciate y'all. But if you're watching at another time, you guys are definitely able to push pause or something like that. Come back and watch it later if you want. Always welcome. But right now, I'm trying to get this video to play. Wait 1 second, y'all. You always gotta have technical difficulties. It's gonna be unfortunate if it doesn't play. But if it doesn't play, what I can do is just kind of summarize it, and then I can just send you guys, or I'll put the link in the bio or in the caption on the YouTube video, so that way you guys can see it, and then you guys can watch it yourself. But it's just basically, it's going to go into things about like John Locke. Like, he was very famous about what he wrote about life and liberty and things of that nature, like what is owed to man, and also what really is freedom. And it's very interesting the way that this guy talks about it. And even what a student asked, she brought up the portion about the Indians, quote unquote, that the colonizers, quote unquote, took the land from them, and maybe they used some of these theories or these concepts to uh, of make valid what they were doing and taking the land, essentially. So I'm just hoping. I'm going to give it probably like 30 more seconds for it to try to play. And if not, then we'll just move on. That's unfortunate. It would have been nice though. Oh man. Well, you guys, it's not gonna play, but it's all right. It's all right. Okay, so we'll move on. So that video again, like I said, it's just I'll put it in the bio, or sorry, not the bio, the links underneath the caption for this video, so you guys can watch it. But again, it's just talking about like freedom It's talking about the different concepts of it and really what is it, um, and what is really owed to man as far as freedom is concerned, as far as the right to have property, things of that nature. And interestingly enough, what they tied to all of that was also that, like, even though someone doesn't believe in God, there is not just a right just to just do whatever you want when it's all said and done. Like the foundations of what we do as far as freedom is concerned is always going to be tied to some type of instruction, essentially, to how you go about that freedom. Because even if you want to do whatever you want to do, like you just can't, even with like just natural law, like you're either going to do things that are just bad, or you're going to do things that are good, but it's tied to some type of, standard of freedom. Like you don't just do it by yourself. You don't just make up what your own freedom is. Even if you're on an island, you're still gonna have to you're still gonna have to feed yourself. You're still gonna have to figure out how to survive. Like you're still gonna have these things that are tied to your freedom. So it's not necessarily just free for you to just do whatever you want, right? And it's, again, you can think on those things and kind of have good conversations with other people, when you kind of look it up. But that's basically what the video was kind of exposing, just in a short sense, right? So again, just like we watched the other video, Romans 13, um, like, again, we as servants of Yah, because it's all tied to us. When the laws change, we cannot just abide by the laws that is trying to get us to abide by, because we have a set of instructions that we live by. That way, the way that we follow Yah's word, we should know what is good and what is right. I mean, what is good and what is bad. That's why you have discernment and wisdom within Torah. For wisdom gives you the understanding. The spirit of wisdom gives you the understanding on how to choose what is good and what is and deny what is wrong. And when you have fear, remember it's twofold. So when you are choosing good, you have fear of Yah. And when you're denying the bad stuff, you have fear of Yah, because you do not want to do evil, but you want to do good. You want to make sure it's good. And wisdom helps you do so. And within your spirit, you also have counsel. You have counsel and you have power, which is a dormant in a lot of people, a lot of servants of Yah. Power is dormant because you're getting understanding, you're getting the counsel, but you're not taking the power that he's giving you in your ruach to actually do what you're supposed to do and walk in wisdom, walk in fear, walk in righteousness. You're not actually choosing to do it and take upon that power he's giving you. It's just dormant. So essentially with our study, let's just say with this specific example of the land, law of the land changing, you realize that who's coming is a man of lawlessness. So his laws are going to make even more this country and this world lawless. But we follow Torah. We follow Yah's instruction that has attached understanding and intimate knowledge, and knowing the oaths, the covenants that are attached to it. We guard Shabbat, we guard these different things, and we literally hold the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach within it. We have his seal. So what you're going to see when you read more into Shepherd of Hermas as well, the seal of the Son is upon you. The tau that was talked about in Ezekiel, you have the mark of Yah on you when you understand this word, because whoever, you do not have the Father if you do not have the Son. You will have both. If you have the Father, you have the Son, right? I may have said that a little bit wrong by how the scripture says it. I believe it's in First John or maybe Second John, but you guys will understand what I'm saying. You guys can fix that on your own there, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. But it's a seal. right? For you to be elect. And there's things that are attached to being elect. But when we're going through Jacob's trouble, we're going through a time of trouble, we have to be locked in so much with this specific example that you are not tied to anything that is on this earth. No possessions, no nothing, no house, no nothing. And you see in Second Ezra chapter 15 specifically, 16 specifically, these people, when stuff gets crazy, they're going to ravage houses anyway. Now, this is now you notice is he was talking about his people. So there's things that are going to come against us, unfortunately. But fortunately, because it does say in other scriptures to try us in the fire, to try us in the fire. We're not the only ones who went through this before, but this is our time. Read about the other captivities. A lot of times when people are reading what we're reading in prophecy or reading about like the captivity back then, they skip over what our people actually went through in that moment. They don't live in that moment. They don't live in that emotion that Ezra is talking like these prophets are feeling. They don't live in it. We're just reading to kind of see what is it about us? What's it about us? But we skip over what they felt and what they've gone through. You know how hard it is to hear about something that's gonna happen massive amount of years later, and like especially in the moment where you're literally seeing Zion, Zion, like Jerusalem getting ravished. That Yah literally opened. He had to actually, and I'm gonna share this later down the line. He had to actually allow the enemy to break into Jerusalem. Like there's no other way that they could do it, but him literally doing it in the spiritual realm to allow, he told the angels to open up the doors for the enemy to come in and do what they did. That's the only way they can get in. The only way. If you want to read further, that's in, I believe, third Baruch. It's important. It's super important. So they felt all this stuff. So what we going through, we have to literally be really absorbing all of this stuff and not attach yourselves to anything, including like literally preparing your children. Preparing your children. Do you realize when stuff like this starts happening, if it's some type of crazy situation, unfortunately, that some people will succumb to taking the mark because their children are starving. Why would Yah allow my kids to starve? Why would he do this to us? He wouldn't want me to do that. He'll forgive me for taking this mark. He'll forgive me for doing this, whatever, blah, blah. Yah says, no, where is that in scripture at? Where did I say that in my word? Not at all. It's not as it's not like I can't sugarcoat this stuff anymore. It's not even sugarcoated in the word, but it's all beautiful at the end of the day because we can't tie ourselves to the way that man thinks about death, the way that man thinks about trouble. This is literally our time right now. Not all of us are going to fully make it, but you have to understand that this is also for, sorry guys, this is also for us to to thrive. There's more things that we're going to learn and more things we're going um to do in the power of the Ruach. There's things that people are going to heal. People are going to speak in different in tongues, etc. So it's more to it, guys. But I want you guys to read this. Take a screenshot and read about the lawlessness. Read about the things that are coming for why you cannot attach yourself to this land. Just read about it. Super important. And I'm gonna do, because I don't have a lot of time to finish this up, and I don't want to rush fully everything because it's like four more more slides, and that's totally okay. Um, but I'll just do a part two of this because it's super important. So I'll pick up back on this. At least we have this thought to kind of leave off on. Um, and I'll pick back up on this portion because the similitude is not done. So it's more to it. Okay. So fortunately that's all really the time I have left to really put out this information. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it thus far. Sorry to end it like this. But again, it's just a lot of conversation to think about, a lot of things to go read. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try to do this either maybe Sunday. Today is, wait, what did it say? Saturday. So maybe tomorrow. I may be able to pick it up tomorrow, but we'll see. But I appreciate you guys that are on today listening, and um, I will message some of you guys later. Sure, you guys have some comments and stuff. But all praise to the Most High Yah, and we will pick back up later, y'all.